Yeah, I think we are now done with all the genealogy ones because we have neither of us have played Portia. We're just skipping it and going to physics, which well, physics is a okay game as well. I think that its cast of villains is one of the better ones. Like, if I have to rank, I would say that it's the third best villain cast for me. Right behind Sacred Stones and Helios, having my opinion better casts of villains.
I think I can agree with that. That sounds
Yeah.
roughly where I'd place it as well.
Yeah. Like, it has a good cast, and while there are a few characters that I really like, at the same time, I feel that there are a few that have either a more solid cast or have like more standouts. But yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
I like pretty much every major villain in Blazing Blade. Like, Binding Blade. Binding Blade is the one with Roy. Blazing Blade is the one with Hollywood. But yeah,
Yeah.
I like pretty much every villain in Binding Blade. I think they are really cool. And while I don't like some as much as others, I think that overall it's a solid villain cast. So what do we start with? I'm just Norsian. Let's start with my boy. Let's start with Norsian.
That's a good place to start. Yeah.
Yeah, because like Norton is really cool. I really like him. Like he's this snively bastard who is very grinning and very sadistic, and also he has a bit more character depth to him. Like he has kind of this not necessarily honor, but like he is more than just this narcissistic son of a bitch. Like he's more than that. Like there was this one line where he was kind of hesitating to Sephiel's orders, and I like when I played Binding Blade, I really liked it line, and that like gave him more complexity than just this snivel little bitch. Yeah, Narsen is so fun. Like he's just this. I love these smug little bastards who just are so unsympathetic and so selfish and smug and nasty, but they're so much fun.
Yeah.
And I feel Norton is so perfect in that.
He's a
He's
really fun
so
villain.
yeah, he's like I feel that Fire Emblem really lacks those fun villains. Like either we have like simple villains that are kind of interesting if you dig through the surface, or those super memorable, super sympathetic villains. I feel that Fire Emblem needs more villains that aren't sympathetic, are still fun.
Yeah.
And Norton is like he definitely has a few complexities and stuff that you could read as sympathetic. He's mostly a fun little nasty boy. And that's what I love about him. He's so much fun, he's so enjoyable, and he has a big character depth. So yeah, he's definitely a solid social villain. And I love him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's
Also,
he's a
he's
good
another
he's a good introduction villain too, because he's like
yeah.
one of the first villains that we meet in the story,
Mhm.
and it kind of gives a sense of like what the environment's sort of like in
Yeah.
Burn.
Yeah, like he's a really good like scope. Like he and also he's the first major villain we fight off. That too.
Yeah.
Like that's also another thing. Like he's the first one we defeat and the first one we fight. And that kind of like he kind of like he's a perfect starter villain. Even if the rest of the villains aren't as nasty as him, he definitely like sets him apart. And oh boy, I just love him. And also, he's another pretty boy on a dragon. I think we can see a trend here.
I like his hair. He has nice hair.
Yeah, he's very stylish. Also, his clothes. He's very stylish.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Norton is a solid story villain and one of my personal favorites. So yeah, I think the next one. Running or Gale? What do we go with first?
Well, they serve kind of similar roles.
Yeah, they both are kind of like the Camus character
Yeah.
in different ways. Like
Yeah.
Gale is more standard Camus in the sense that he's this pretty boy who like is loyal to his country, whereas Bronya is more loyal to like Sephiel himself.
Mm-hmm.
Also, she's in like Murdoch. Like Murdoch basically worshipped Sephiel in his entire existence, whilst Bronya more. Are you okay there? Maybe we shouldn't destroy everything because you had a tragic childhood.
Yeah.
Like, like she isn't as loyal as Murdoch is. Oh, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I personally really like Brenia because I really like what sure she's a pretty lady who's really sympathetic and likable, but also she is one of those characters that who are good people but are on the wrong side, and I really like that. Also, she's a pretty lady, and I'm very bisexual, and I love her.
I
Time.
think
That's
I
probably
think
one of my favorites.
one thing that I really like about her, it's kind of a small detail, but like, after Zephiel's dead, and you have to fight against her. She basically tells all the soldiers, "Oh, you're free to go. Like if you don't want to fight, you can leave, and no one's gonna punish you." And then all the soldiers are like, "Oh, we're gonna fight with you until the very end." And she's like, "Okay, anyone that has a family is forced to leave. Like I don't want you to die here." Like, it shows that
Oh,
she
but
cares for her soldiers.
yeah, she does, and that's what I like about her. She's a really good person deep down, and I just love how like this is the kind of villains that I love. That villains who aren't necessarily evil. I guess that's more like antagonists, but still kind of interchangeable term. And I'm too lazy right now. But still, like she isn't a bad person. She's just on the wrong side, and I just holy shit, I love her so much. But yeah, Gale is another. Gale is probably my least favorite because he isn't really that interesting. He's basically another famous, but I think he's decent. He does his job pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And like you really like Gale from what I recall.
Yeah,
From what
I really like him. Mostly the big selling point for him for me is just his relationship with Zeiss and Milady,
yeah,
because
like
you
he
have that personal connection there, and
yeah.
it's an extra layer to him that
Mm.
Brunya or Murdoch don't have, because he has that feeling of conflictedness with himself. He's like, they're fighting for this cause, I'm fighting for this cause, we're gonna have to fight each other, and
Yeah, it's kinda like
he accepts that they're gonna fight each other.
yeah, that's really tragic, and I really like that line. Like, I think that with Rania and Gale, like Gale is more conflicted in the sense that he has like fight with people he loves because they're fighting for different causes. But with Rania, it's more like she has like fight for a cause she doesn't necessarily agree with, just because she's so loyal to the people she loves. They're fighting for a cause she doesn't necessarily agree with, kind of like with each other.
Yeah,
And I really like this contradiction with the two characters that they're conflicted but in different ways. And that's really neat.
yeah, they
I don't
I say
mind.
that they work well together, like them
Yeah,
two.
they're really interesting. They're
Hmm.
like foils or parallels of each other. And I really like that.
Yeah, it's a nice dynamic.
Yeah. But before we get to the big man himself, let's talk about Murdoch. He's like his lapdog or his like second hand man before we
Yeah.
get to the big man himself. Oh boy. Murdoch, like, he's kind of one of those characters who's kind of like not that much of a character, as more like an extension to Sephiel, and so there isn't really much talking about him more than he's cool and I like him, and I feel that he fulfills his purpose well. Like there isn't really much I have to say about Murdoch, to be honest. Do you have anything?
Um, Not too much. I do really like him.
Mm.
The thing that I one thing that I, a detail that I like about him is it's it's sort of the fact that he has that personal history with Zephyr. It's like, I've been with you since you were a child. I basically raised you because your father didn't love you, and so it's like
Yeah.
that sense of loyalty that he has to him because he's been with him his whole life.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it also like adds more depth to the characters. That's really cool.
Hmm. It's a small
Mm.
detail, but it's nice. It builds
It
their
helps a lot.
relationship, and it helps
Yeah.
them grow.
Yeah, it's really good. And yeah, there's not very much. So now let's get the big boy. Oh boy. Zephyr is another of those fan favorite villains, and for a good reason. And he's one of my personal favorites. He's probably my second or third favorite main villain in the entire franchise, I think. I'm not sure.
Mm.
Like, he's one of my favorites. And he's so good! Like, he's basically this misanthropic, like, hates humanity because of his past. And I know that I criticized that with Arvis, but like, Arvis, like, it felt more empty, or like, to just give it up for him. But with like Zephyr, like his experiences like shaped up his worldview, and that worldview like affects his goal because of his past, he thinks that most humans are awful, and because of that, he thinks that dragons should rule over instead of humans, and he like wants to basically create the second scoring or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like really like an evolution of the previous characters we talked about. Like he feels more complex, and also one of the things that I love about Seville is that he is a character you can understand and even sympathize with, but he's also so irredeemable and such a bastard. Like one of the things I really don't like about Fire Emblem is that how often they kind of like make the sympathetic villains like kind of they have a tragic backstory, so and like there's this like either a character is like irredeemable or sympathetic, and there isn't that much in between. But, like Zephyr is one of those characters that really fits in between. Like he's both a character you can understand, but a character that you must take down because he's so deep into his madness that he cannot be saved, and that's what makes him really tragic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, he has a lot of layers to his character because at the very basic level, the most basic level, his father didn't love him. He tried to kill him, and so from a young age, he learned people are bad. People do bad things, and then he learns about the how dragons once ruled, and he sees that humans basically got rid of the dragons and almost destroyed the world in doing so. They caused like the catastrophe, world froze, whatever. And so he's like,
Mhm.
humans have a history of doing terrible things. They have a history of destruction. So
So they should be
I'm gonna
destroyed.
return the world to the dragons because they deserve it more than humans do. Humans are just gonna
Yeah,
keep
and
destroying.
that's really interesting motivation, and that's really complex, and I just really like that it's just so Chefskis. But also he's driven into madness, and like he doesn't know that much anymore, and he kind of like has this warped worldview, and just this is so good. This
Yeah.
is one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the way that how Blazing Blade showed Zephyr as a young innocent child, and that kind of like makes it all sting even more to like see that in what's happened to him.
Yeah.
And like that's another like you said with Mr. of Emblem, that's kind of like the same thing, like seeing the character before they fall.
Yeah.
But
Something
yeah, I
something
think
that I think of that it's not really talked a lot about, but if you think about it, Roy is really young. I think he's canonically the youngest lord. Maybe Seliph might be younger. I'm not sure about the exact ages. But the point is he's young. He's literally a kid. And
he's a
he
baby.
has to go fight this war. And then you have Zephiel, who, when he was a kid, when he was young, he realized humanity is evil. People are bad. And then you have Roy, who sees the evils of humanity and the difference in how they react to that. Whereas Zephiel loses hope in humanity and says people are evil, Roy, on the other hand, says people do bad things, but there are also good people. We need to fight to protect the good people.
Shit,
And it's just that
I never
that
realized
difference in
this.
how they react to seeing the evil of humanity at a young age.
Yeah, holy shit, I never realized this, and that's just really cool. Honestly,
Hmm.
holy shit,
Yeah.
I really like that. But yeah, the film is really interesting and really nuanced. Will, and I just he's one of the best ones in the entire series.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Before we move on to a series entry that doesn't have as good villains, let's talk about Eden. Eden is a really interesting character for me because like she's an empty shell. She really is kind of like a husk, and that makes her really interesting and unique compared to the other evil dragons because they are okay. They are also like driven into madness, but she isn't really evil or nasty or a demon king or something like that. She's a husk, and that
Hmm.
makes her really unique compared to the other evil dragons. And also the way that you can actually save her, and that's the best ending, is that
Yeah.
she lives
Yeah.
and she gets a second chance. And I really like that. And she's a really tragic character. the way like how she was destined to become this evil dragon even if she didn't really want to, and she kind of became an empty shell. And she's just really good, and I feel so sad for her.
Mhm.
Also, she really pretty, and I like pretty ladies.
I think the fact that you can save her is it really fits the theme of Binding Blade. Binding Blade has this big message about hope. Roy is very hopeful. He believes in people. He believes in, fighting to help people. And
Roy's the kind.
the fact that instead of killing the evil dragon or sealing it away or whatever, he decides, "No, I want to spare you. I want to help you. You've been tormented, you've been hurt, you've been manipulated and used. I want to try and save you." And he does.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, like Running Blade probably has one of the more hopeful messages in the entire franchise. But it's about hope, and it's about how humanity can be bad, but it also can be good. And it also like fits like the fact that like instead of like killing the dragons and continuing this cycle, you instead break the cycle by saving the dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really good. She's a baby. Are we like going to make this like a 5 hour long? We go through every single villain.
I mean, there's some that there's not much to say about. I'm looking at you,
Yeah, but
Awakening.
like are we like halfway through?
About halfway ish. We're on 7 out of what, 14, 15?
Yeah, we're 7 out of 14, I think. No, 7 out of 13, because there are 16 games and 3 of them are remakes.
Okay, is it? There you go. See, halfway point.
Yeah, and we skipped Croatia, so like we have done like 6 out of 12, so it's
halfway point. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So Blazing Blade is next.
Yeah.
And this is one that I don't have. There aren't that many villains to talk about, but there's one that I have a lot to say. I think you know exactly what I mean.
If you want to be the one to complain, do it.
Yeah, but I think that we should first start like, is there other villains we should first talk about? Because like the only like this Black Fang,
I guess the Black Fang and the Animorphs.
we will like start with them and then go to
And then
Mackerel.
yeah, that's it really. Oh, see, because it's Blazing Blade is the weird one because it doesn't have a war. Like we don't go to war with anyone.
Yeah.
Instead, it's literally just evil cult. It's not.
Yeah, it's or evil organization in this case, because Black Fang is more like a secret organization or like a mafia than a standard cult or like an evil wizard called like Lapirians or Agotans. So like the only evil wizard there is like Negril.
Yeah. So it's a weird game. It's very different from the norm.
Uncovering an evil conspiracy. Basically that. It has a lot of assassins and mafia, basically. Yeah. I think that Black Fang is pretty decent. Like they're the most memorable villains, which is kind of why we are lumping them all together here instead of talking them one by one, and then also to save time. But they're pretty neat. Like they aren't the best villains, but they serve their purpose and they serve it pretty well. I don't really have much to say except that I like how Ursula is basically a lesbian coded. Like the way that she's basically has hots for Sonia.
Yeah.
And that's really gay, and I really like that. But otherwise, they aren't really that memorable. Except Linus and Deloitte, they're pretty neat, and they are all pretty neat, but they aren't like. I wouldn't like write a 500 long page essay of them. Like,
yeah.
they like usually Fire Emblem villains kind of fall into either they are really good or there are missed opportunities. But like with Black Fang, they are just decent. There isn't much to say about them.
Yeah.
They do their job well, they're pretty threatening, and they fulfill their purpose in the narrative. And I don't have much else to say.
I'd probably say they're the best group of villains in Blazing Blade, but that's not really saying much.
Yeah, like basically like they are the more realistic, while morphs are more supernatural. So like Black Fang are more like realistic assassins.
Yeah.
Or hitmen, and that's something I really like. That adds a lot of richness to it, but there isn't really much. With morphs, I actually have slightly more to say. I think they have really cool designs. Like they have this shadowy black hair, eerie yellow eyes, but are still kind of pretty in an uncanny way. And I really like the whole shapeshifter idea and the way that they can shapeshift into other people. But I feel that they aren't really used that much. And I feel that they kind of suffer from what some other later Fire Emblem games suffer from, that they feel kind of out of place, or like they aren't integrated to the story as well as they could. They just kind of feel like they stick out on a summer time, and I wish they were implemented better. That being said, I still like the morphs. I think they have cool designs, especially Limistella and Sonia. I love the fact that Limistella is one of the few canonically non-binary characters in the entire franchise, and that's why they're one of my favorites of the bunch. And one of those, you aren't that well written, but I still like you because you're a cool character with a cool design and cool concept. And and I really like the little personalities they get. And I think that Sonia is probably the best of the bunch. And honestly, she's like really nasty, evil lady who like has everyone on their fingers. And I love her personal connection with Nino and how she like was this evil stepmother to Nino. And she's probably the best single villain in the entire game for me. And hot take, Sonia should have been the main villain. Like, I'm cool with Nergal, even with my truckload of issues with his character, but honestly, I think that Sonia should have basically like hijacked the plot and like became the years of the final antagonist position of Nergal, because she's much more memorable and works better as an antagonist. Well, Negro just he's decent, but like he isn't as strong of a main villain as some other ones. But Sonia is like really good. Like she's pretty good, and I feel that she works her purpose as a villain really well, and she's a good threat. And I feel that she's more threatening and more intimidating and more interesting than Negro. Or Negro is interesting, but he's also a weird case. We will get to him. But yeah, Sonya is really cool, and the other three morphs are decent, or I like them to okay. Like, oh yeah, but yeah, like I said, morphs are pretty cool, even if they're utilized, and only two of them are really interesting, and the other are just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they're decent to pretty cool. Not my favorites, but I like them. I like them conceptually, even if they're a bit out of place.
Yeah. I definitely I agree that they're definitely more of the like memorable part of the like evil side, because the Black Fang isn't really evil. They're just like a mercenary
Assassins.
group. Like they're
Yeah.
assassins. They do their job. That's it. They aren't explicitly evil.
Hmm.
And so they're far more memorable. They work really well. I like the idea that you presented about having her take over as the main villain, because she
Yeah.
is really a much more memorable character, much more likable.
Yeah, she's
There's a lot more
yeah,
to
she's
her.
yeah. I don't think Negril is bad, but there are some really big issues with his character.
Hmm.
Let's just put it that way. But like Sonia just she works much better as a main villain. Like she's more memorable, and she while as Nergal for the most part is pretty standard evil guy and simplistic. But uh for the most part. And we will get when we get to Negro, because I have a lot to say about it.
Hmm.
A
Yeah.
lot. But like she like Sonia is really cool. And one of the things that I really like about morphs before we moved on to Negro is how like Negro created them as a way of continuing his experiments with like well how he like tried to like recreate life because of his past. And I really like that. I like how there are like these artificial creations made by him. And there's a lot of to explore with creations that are like only made for like someone else's benefit, and someone else created them. And I feel the game doesn't go as deep as it could have with like the morph characters. Like I feel there's a lot of concept potential there. Also, I had this thought. You should have had morph was playable. Like technically do with the priest guy. I forgot his name. Like he was technically a morph. Like he was also a human who became a morph.
Hmm.
And I forgot his name. But he's one of the fan favorites.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
forgot
yeah.
his name. You know who I mean.
Yeah, yeah. I know.
But
I don't remember the name either, but I do know who you're talking
yeah,
about.
like he was pretty cool. But like I wish they had like went full circle and had actual morph character, or even someone like Sonya who thinks they are human, but then they are actually a morph. Like I feel that would have been much more powerful than just having a guy who used to be a human but became a morph because like he helped Negro with the experiments. Like I feel that's kind of a cop out, but also I like the guy, but I wish we had an actual morph in addition to him. If
Hmm.
that makes sense. Because
Yeah.
like in that way we could have like explored more of the psyche of someone who like was created as a tool and the whole shapeshifter thing. And I feel that could have been really interesting aspects of the story and the world that weren't really explored that much because they were mostly concepts for the villains. And that's a really shame. And I would have loved to have a character that could have given even more insight to it.
Hmm.
And just the guy we got who gave a bit more insight to it, and not a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, are cool, and I like them. Wish they had gotten more, but they're neat. So yeah, now to get to the Negril. Okay, so I feel that to sum it up, I feel that Negril is the perfect like summation of both what I like and what I dislike about God of Archetype. Like he's the epitome of both the things that I really like about the archetype, but that really frustrate me. Like he's the one that perfectly sums up my opinion. So to start, I think that starting the things that I like about Negro before like going to things that frustrate me. So what I like is his concept. I like that how he was once a good person and he's a person, but then he has this tragedy and then he like got corrupted because of it. Like it like took all his like sanity slowly, and then when he started to study dark magic, he became even more and more obsessed till he lost the little pieces of humanity he had left. And that's a really cool concept. And I feel that's one of the things that I really like about Garnet archetypes is that even if they are presented as these simplistic evil wizards, they usually have a motivation that like is tied to either revenge, jealousy, anger, hatred, or a combination of both. Like they really have experienced something bad, and that like twists and warps them into this twisted and manipulative individual. I also like how Gonov is basically a shell of his former self, because like that really makes him more like he isn't really a man anymore. Like kind of like with the morphs, they're empty shells too. So he kind of is an empty shell as well, which is a really cool parallel in a sense. And
Hmm.
also, I really love his backstory. I already went through it, and it actually kind of reminds me of Garner's in the way that how Garner was like related to Kojo in the way that he was Goto's former student. Uh, um, Negril is related to Autos in the way that he and Autos were good friends, but then Negril's wife died, and Autos was gonna fuck this shit I'm out, and Negril then like became obsessed with like reviving his wife and reuniting with his kids were Nissan Minion. That's another thing I like. I like the fact that he has a personal connection with Nissan Minion as well. Uh, and but then he was like driven to madness and he even lost his sight and lost. And I feel this Negro is a really good character concept, actually. What I don't like about Necrol is his execution, both with the way the backstory is executed and the way the character is used. Like Necrol is pretty much a simple evil wizard. He is the wizard guy who like created morphs and he manipulates Black Fang and you see here a few times and he doesn't he's pretty much like really generic. Like back in the day with Ornef, and even with the Lapterians, like Manfred, the simple evil wizard like worked. But then, like now, when we have had more complex villains, like we have had Zephiel, and we have even Orwis, even if I don't like Orwis that much, they were more complex and more had more nuances. And then you get back to an evil wizard who tries to cause the end of the world because why not? And that's kind of source because again, I get that runners are evil wizards. But I feel the way that Negrel is presented is a bit too cartoony, especially when the game basically is more realistic with the setting, that it's more grounded and like you said, the main antagonists or the main ones are basically medieval assassins guilds or a medieval mafia. So the fact that the main one is actually this evil wizard, it feels kind of out of place. And that like kind of sours me on Negro. But what's the worst part about Negro's character is the way his backstory is presented. And you know exactly what I mean. Like,
Yeah, I know.
yeah, like I have no issue with like hiding a woman's backstory in a secret route or anything like that, or like a secret mission. But the fact that first of all, you need to play the hardest difficulty that's otherwise optional. And second of all, you need to do a secret mission. Like, I think that either one, you should have a secret mission accessible in the Elwood mode, and not just in the Hector mode. But there's also the fact that Hector mode is otherwise carbon copy of Elwood mode. Like, it's just a different perspective and a few different characters. Otherwise, it's the same. Like, I feel that something like this, where you reveal a major villain's backstory, would work better in Tree Houses or even in Sacred Stones, because like those have more like differences in the main story depending different routes. It isn't just here, have a different perspective, have the cool guy with the big axe instead of the typical Fire Emblem lore. And like well, in Tree Houses and even in Sacred Stones, and yeah, Fates, I committed Fates erased, but then again, Fates isn't that well executed. But those, like, even Sacred Stones have like more difference than just different perspectives. So, like, I feel like they're hiding the main villain's backstory in a route in a game that's more like has differences in the routes works better than having hiding the main villain's backstory in a game where the optional route is basically a hard mode and not even an actual route.
Yeah.
Like, this is just very rude. Like, you could have just put in the secret mission into the Hollywood mode and it would be much better. But then again, the fact you find Neville's backstory is like one of the few things that like makes Hector mode different from Hollywood mode. So it's kind of like, damn if you do, damn if you don't.
I think my whole thing regarding that is, on the one hand, I do like the replay value because, you play it the first time and then you got to play it again on another difficulty and do the extra paths and get like the full story. That's nice. It's an incentive to replay. But first of all, as you mentioned, it's almost entirely similar, so it's frustrating. It's frustrating that you have to go through like pretty much the whole game again, like almost exactly the same.
Yeah, like I know that a lot of people say that Tree Houses is the same, but at least Tree Houses fruits, they have a different story. They have different perspectives, different events. Even if the maps are mostly the same, you still get a different experience.
Yeah.
Here, it's basically the same story, not only the same maps, but the same story, just with Hector.
Yeah, and the other thing that frustrates me about this is I feel they hid away too much of his backstory. If you just play vanilla Elliewood route, you just play the game normally, you don't go for any of the extra stuff. I got nothing out of him. I felt nothing for him. I hated him so much because I was like, this is a terrible character. This is a terrible villain. Why should I care about him? And then after I got all the extra content, I was like, oh, this is nice. I appreciate it more. But the fact that it was so frustrating and annoying to get that information, it left a bad taste in my mouth. He's a good villain. He's a good villain, but the execution towards hiding away his backstory and making it a journey to get, while a good idea, was just not executed a good way, and it created a frustrating experience, and it really lessened my appreciation for him as a character.
Yeah, like I feel that Negril is one of those really cool concepts, but really bad execution. And I really hope that we get games that later on that tried this idea of like having the villain's backstory hidden in like different routes, or even like you get different snippets here and there,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a really good idea. And I feel that since some of the later games have like had this more split route structure, so having villains backstory revealed in different routes could work really well if executed correctly and not by bias. Dragon Goddess, we will get there. We will get there. We will get there.
Yeah.
But like Negrel is like one of the villains that frustrates me the most, because like he could be really good if he was more like evenly executed, and even if you like get even a little bit of his backstory, like with Eidos, if he was like, yeah, by the way, I knew Negro, and if he had said anything to imply that Negro wasn't always this evil wizard, I feel that he would be a slightly better character. But yeah,
Yeah.
Negro's just more or less some of my opinions about Gornops in general. Like, he's a really cool character when you know everything about him. The way he's executed just kind of like makes him this generic evil wizard, and this really not even character that you not even hate in a really cool way, like some cool villains that you like love to hate, like Narshan, or a character we're going to go through the next game. One of my favorites, Yunobu. So he isn't even that. He's just a character we don't like because or hate because he's just boring. Like he just kind of there. Like he isn't that bad, but he just
He's
he
very
just
he's
kind
very
of like
much the weakest villain, and since he's the main villain, that's a big disappointment.
yeah. And especially when he could have been better had they like executed him better. Like had they like hidden more backstory, and like had they like made the backstory more clear in the main story, or had they made him a secondary villain and have Sonia hijack the plot, because I feel that that way, like had he like that could actually have made him better, because like I feel as a main villain he's kind of weak. Like either making his backstory more clear, because like that's the best part about his character is his backstory and the way that it affects him and the concept as him as a whole. But at the same time, like also him being a weak villain wasn't be as bad as if he wasn't the main villain, and if he was actually replaced by an actually better villain. Like Sonia, she's like the best in the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
And also with Negro, before we move on, that while we talk about it, is like a lot of the villains in Fire Emblem kind of like have this. They were once really noble, but then they fell into darkness. And Negro does have that concept, but in a slightly more unique way. But it isn't as well executed as with Harden or Zephyr, or someone we will talk about very, very soon. I know we both are excited because,
Yeah.
but yeah. But yeah, I think that's all about Negro. Now we get to the really good villains. Now, first Sacred Stones and the Telios. We get to
Yeah.
the really good stuff. Oh, I'm so excited. I love. I think that Sacred Stones and Telios probably both have like my favorite sets of villains. Like they have my big favorites. So do you want to start like saying which Sacred Stone villains we should go? Because like I have like, but do you want to like change it up and like start the villains?
Okay, that's the hard part because these are all really good villains. Like they're
Yeah,
all
like you're all so great. Like oh, but like I think Sacred Stones probably has one of the best sets. Like it says a lot. And like this evil wizard guy, Ryu, in this case, is actually pretty good. Like it says a lot that Ryu is pretty good. Like
yeah.
Ryu is pretty good. Like usually I don't really like his archetype that much because like evil, obviously evil, a little bastard, but like Ryu is actually pretty good. And we will get to him later. Like that says a lot about the quality of the villains. The one villain that's kind of the archetype I don't really like is actually one of one of the better ones, even in a set of villains that is already really good. That says a lot of quality here.
Yeah, I don't think that there are any bad villains in Sacred Stone. I think that they're
Yeah,
all
they're
very good.
just some of the weaker ones. Like But yeah, I guess that we first go through like the 6 generals of Grotto, even if like Dussel isn't really a villain, so we don't really have to talk about him. Other than
Mhm.
I like Dussel. Dussel is really cool, and he's one of my favorite characters in the game.
Yeah.
He isn't really a villain, so we don't have to talk about him, and we don't really have to talk about Glenn either, because like he just dies. He's a cool
Yeah.
character, but he basically dies, so we don't really have to talk that much about him either. So it's just Selena, Ryu, Kalia, and Walter, who we have to talk about, because Dussel isn't really a villain, and Glenn isn't really either, and he dies. So there isn't much to talk about him.
Hmm.
Other than like that is like really a good way to show like Walter as a character, and like it serves its purpose. Like there isn't really much to talk about him. So yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we could start with Selena, because she's like the one sympathetic villain of like, and the only one of the 3 good granolas of Grotto, or like, because like there are the 3 good ones and then there are the 3 evil ones, and I really like it, because to me I really like how there are like this dynamic between the villains. And one of the things that I really like about Sacred Stones is that it gives its villains screen time. Like we get these snippets that are kind of like in Tokusatsu, where like the villains are talking in their lair about things in the first half. It kind of like vanishes in the second half of the game. But like I really like that in the early parts of the game, where like the villains are like talking with each other, and we like get these snippets to them. And I really like that. That was really cool. But yeah.
Yeah, the
So I guess
villain the villain interactions are really solid. Like you get a good
yeah,
feel for how they work together, the interactions
yeah,
they
and how
have, the
we
dynamic. It
yeah, like
feels like a
usually
group of people that work together.
yeah. Yeah, and even if some of them have more antagonistic relationships, and usually Fire Emblem villains they're kind of like separate, as we have noticed. Like, sure, some of them have like dynamics, and usually we have that one character who is really loyal to another. Like out of the villains, we have so far the only one that has the same dynamic is the one from FE6, like Zephyr and his journals, and even then, I don't think they have as powerful dynamic as the Greta generals. Like they don't have this really, like the Greta generals have really cool dynamic, and they feel more, they don't feel as separate as some other villains. Like the only other villain set, in my opinion, that like executes this as well is the Talios villains, or more specifically, Path of Radiance. I feel executes this as really well as well. But like otherwise, like Sacred Stones, this is one of the reasons it's so good. So yeah, I guess we start with Selena. She's probably my
Hmm.
least favorite of the bunch, but even then she's in bad, she's actually decent and pretty good. So like I don't really have much to say about her other than she's another Camus-like character, or this really sympathetic character, and there isn't really much I can say about her else.
I like her interactions that she has with Mur. They're nice.
Mm. I haven't played a promo roach yet, so I can't really comment on them. But yeah, I feel like she's just another of those nice girls who could be good people if they weren't on the wrong side.
Hmm.
And we already talked about that with Ishtar and Brunia. And she's a good execution of that trope, but there isn't really much else to add. Hmm.
Yeah. She plays the
Yeah,
role well. She plays the role well. She fits the
yeah,
archetype, and does she does provide like a different perspective, a different
yeah. And as of
aspect
you said,
of Grotto. It's nice.
mm, yeah, and if I recall, you said that her motivations or backstory were really interesting. Like the fact that she has a reason why she's super loyal to Greta, and is it just random? And that's something you really like? No? Let's talk about Kalia, because if I recall, Kalia was the one you liked the least.
So he's my least favorite because he doesn't really fit into the picture well. He's just kind of there, especially on Ephraim's route. Erica's route, he has a little more to him because you have the stuff with Joshua and you go over to his home country and you explore a
Yeah,
bit more of him. But if you do Ephraim's path, which I've played Ephraim's path a lot more than I've played Erica's, he's
you just
just there. He really
yeah.
doesn't do
It's actually
anything.
Selena is kind of like the opposite. Like Selena is only in Ephraim's path. In Erika's path, she dies off screen. So maybe
Yeah.
that's the only reason why I don't really have that much of opinion on her.
Hmm.
And but yeah, Kelly, he's really cool. I really like the British part of him, and I like his history, Joshua, and the way how he's basically a mercenary who became part of this group of elite guards because he was this powerful and this renowned. And I personally really like that. But at the same time, he is really simple character and also kind of out of place. Like I feel he fits a Sacred Stone setting, but at the same time, I can't help but wonder that he may have been more home in Blazing Blade as a member of Black Fang because he has this mercenary, valor hungry mercenary who is harsh and for life's attitude. And while that isn't out of place in Sacred Stones, I can help but wonder it may be more home in the previous game. But all in all, Kala is still pretty cool. And I still like his personality, the backstory we get, and he has a decent design.
Yeah,
But again,
he's another
I
one of those fun villains. Like he's a likable character. He has his charm. He has his backstory. He has his layers. So there's a lot to like about him. I just don't like how disjointed he feels from the whole story. Like for all of the antagonists, he feels like he fits in the least in regards to
yeah,
everyone else.
yeah, exactly. Like he feels a bit out of place, and he doesn't have that much reason to exist in the plot. And also, he feels like in the wrong setting, like I said. And
Hmm.
also, yeah, in especially like in Erika's route, he's more relevant, and I really like the way he's used in Erika's route. But even then, he feels like he doesn't feel as like the others. You kind of like get the sense that they are these powerful generals and they are these important figures. But in Kala, he's just kind of like this higher ranked soldier who just is one of the big guys because he's really powerful mercenary.
Hmm.
And I feel that's kind of like the issue with his character is that he feels like a minor boss who is a major boss. And that isn't bad, but it could have been better executed.
Yeah.
But yeah, now when we have talked about the weaker villains, let's get to the better ones. Walter, aka one of the best villains in the entire game. Like I would say that he's probably if Lion didn't exist, I would say that Walter is easily my favorite villain in the entire game. He's just so much fun and love to hate, and I love him for it. He just is that really fun, sadistic little bastard, like basically the same as with Narsen, but like Walter feels like an evolved version of Narsen. Like
Yeah.
Narsen but better. Like I already liked Narsen and he was really cool. But Walter like takes everything that worked with Narsen and makes it even better. Like he has the charisma, he has the statistics, he has the little bastard you hate so much. He is so well integrated in the story. The way he has this really powerful oh, I want to kill you dynamic with Erika. The way he's so sadistic and loves to fight. Everything about him is so much fun, so much perfection, and even he's kind of cartoonishly evil. He still works to the setting. He's just implemented so well. He's so much fun, so threatening, such a perfect story villain. He's like one of the best villains in the entire series. I would go so far and probably the best villain who isn't like super sympathetic or complex. Because like he's this little bastard, but he's so much fun to watch. He works so well in the story, in the role he's supposed. He fulfills his role really well, and just man, I love Walter. He's so good.
Yeah, he really just he has so much energy to him, and like everything he does is just so cruel and twisted and evil, and he's just like he gets enjoyment out of making people suffer. And so like when you finally confront him, when you finally after all of the buildup, it's like you've it's a major hurdle you've overcome.
Probably one of the villains with the best setup. Like he's built up so well, you see him so much, and you get so much insight into what he does and why he does, and he's just so twisted and like so sadistic that
Yeah.
you get so even if his death is kind of anticlimactic, it's still satisfying because the build-up has been so good.
Hmm.
So the fact that he dies kind of in an anticlimactic way doesn't really matter that much because he's built up so well and he works so
Yeah,
well.
he's so memorable. He just you really do just love to hate him. Like every time he's on screen, he's so vile and wicked and twisted, and
And at the same
it's one of those villains you just really love to see.
Yeah, but at the same time, while he is well wicked and twisted, he kind of has that weird charm to him. Like he is so steals the show every time he's on.
Yeah.
Like he's brutal, but he's also so fun to watch and just best of both worlds, basically. And while he isn't the most sympathetic character, I also like the implication of his backstory of like how he like kind of lost his marbles because he found this cursed lens, and that kind of like twisted his mind. And while it kind of like robs his memorability, at the same time, it makes him kind of like more layered, like
Yeah.
kind of like how he became kind of like obsessed with killing. He basically lost his humanity, and that's our neat parallel to Lion. But at the same time, it doesn't really ruin his character because it's more like this small little bit. Like it doesn't take away the fun and the sadism and the brutality of him. He's still this really fun character.
Yeah, it shows another side to him that existed before the character that we as the player have come to know. Because you see him and you think, how can someone this evil exist? And then you find out he wasn't always this way.
Yeah, and like that actually fits to the whole evil isn't born, it's made. And also, a lot of Fire Emblem villains, like even the more simplistic ones, usually have a backstory that explains the way they are. And Walter is a perfect example. He
Mhm.
may be really simple, but he has this small addition that like explains what he is without taking his character away. And that's neat. So yeah, Walter is one of the best ones in the game and in the franchise as well. He's just so good. And another guy who writes on dragons. I think we are starting to see a trend here.
Yes.
Like, if there's a guy who rides on dragons and he's one of the main ones, he will be one of my favorites.
I think we're about to get to someone who breaks that trend.
But that's someone. If you're talking about that someone, is actually one of my favorite. Okay, but yeah,
we'll
we aren't
get we'll
there
get
yet.
there soon.
Yeah, the first Ryu. Like I mentioned earlier, Ryu is kind of like this sinister magician who was like really obviously evil because he loves this twisted and warped and ugly and that. And like, I usually don't really like these characters because they are evil for the sake of evil and kind of like more of the more boring and simple ones. And
Mhm.
even if Ryu is that, I feel that he's actually pretty well executed. Like he, sure, he's this sinister and snively little like worms his way and whispers his ears. But also, I feel he focuses his role well, and it doesn't feel that out of place. And I feel that he's works his role well, and he's really fun to watch. Like he's an as big show stealer as Walter is, but I still like Ryu, and I still think he works well as a villain, and he works his purpose well, and he's fun to watch, even if he is a sinister little sniveler. But before I talk about probably my favorite thing about Ryu, I will say this: I don't consider you a Garner because, like, I like Garners. Or I have a love-hate relationship with Garners, as we have seen. But I don't consider Ryu a Garner, and that's one thing because he isn't that important. He has traits of a Garner, but he isn't really the main villain, and he really like while he does manipulate Lion, it's more like Lion found him and made him one of his allies. He didn't like, oh, I'm going to use you and kind of like Manfred for the just Arvis. Like Ryu is more or less this loyal servant who just like has this really wants to promote this back to life. Like he really wants the Dragon King to Demon King to return, but at the same time he isn't really a god because he's that insignificant, and also he's a manipulative little
Mhm.
bastard, but he also isn't really he doesn't try to manipulate Lion. Like I personally would compare Ryu more to someone like Zuka from Radiant Dawn rather than Garnet. Like I feel that those two characters are more similar, and the way they puppet use like these puppets also. I feel that those two, then kinda Ayago from Fates and Solon from Three Houses are kind of like more similar with each other than Ryu is with God of like this world puppeting thing and kind of this secondary evil wizard guy who's kind of who isn't really a Garnet. And like, yeah, like, even with my, I feel like Ryu is pretty cool. Like, he works well. But, oh, before we move to Ryu, my favorite thing about him, go on. My favorite thing about Ryu is the fact that you would think he's a Garnet. Like, you would think he would be the one that manipulates Lion. But he really isn't. He's just a loyal guy. Like I explained, he's just extremely loyal and really wants to form his back. But he doesn't really use Lion as much as like he just sees it as an opportunity. But he isn't really that manipulating and then revealed as the true mastermind, and then Lion like gets sidelined. Instead, Ryu is just a secondary antagonist, and they could have easily had him be the Garnet and like manipulate Lion, like be the real villain. They really don't, and I really respect that because as much as I like Ryu, as cool as he is, Lion is definitely the better, and he's a really complex villain. And like
Yeah.
having him sidelined for a more simpler villain, as cool as Ryu is, and as well written as he is, I still feel that if he like hijacked the plot and became the main villain and like was a Garnet, then he wouldn't be as good as he is now. Because the fact he is simple works well, but it also works well because he's a secondary antagonist.
I kind of really I like that loyalty aspect to him because that's not something that you really see too often. Usually in loyalty, like you go straight to like the generals and yeah, things like that. You don't often think of loyalty in terms of like the wizards and the sorcerers and stuff. Usually that's more scheming, manipulative, behind the scenes type of thing. So it's a nice difference from what we're expected.
Yeah, Ryu is definitely a scheming and manipulative little brother. I love that about him. But he also doesn't try to manipulate Lion, and that's something I really like, and I feel that makes him unique. There's also another thing that makes Ryu super unique. Is the fact that he's a light magic user, not a dark magic user.
Yeah.
It's usually the evil wizards that use dark magic, and Garnet uses, and most Garnets, and even characters like Izuga and Iago, they use dark magic, but Ryu uses light magic, and I think that's really cool, and that makes him stand out. Yeah, Ryu is definitely a character I didn't expect to like, especially as much. Like, I don't like him as much as I like Walter, but he's definitely one of my favorites in Sacred Stones. Like, I definitely really like him.
Yeah, he's
really cool.
He's unique. He works very well in the story. He's one of the driving causes behind the plot because he helped basically orchestrate everything from the start.
But even then, and yeah, that's the fact that he helped orchestrate is probably a reason that some people could see him as a Garnet. But at the same time, Ryu is kind of weird because he technically is a Garnet, but he also isn't, and I feel like he kind of like start his own whole archetype.
Yeah,
probably. With the way of secondary wizards who are scheming and manipulative, but who aren't major enough, and who don't have hatred and revenge as their motivation. So he kind of like started that run that continued with Izuga and Iago and even Solon, of these secondary evil wizards who like don't have the same motivations as a Garnet usually does, and are more secondary. Yeah, Ryu is very neat, very unique, and very cool. So yeah, I guess before we go to the big one, let's talk about Orson. I think.
Oh yeah. So I think I don't think there's anything that can really match the level of shock or surprise after you beat him and then you go see his wife and like we don't even see what it is. Like they don't display anything. It's that ominous. It's literally just repeating the single line of dialogue.
Basically, Momo Sasaki in Kamen Rider X8, basically the same thing in Kamen Rider X8. You know exactly what I mean. But yeah, like
I know what you mean.
Yeah, in Kamen Rider X8, it really gives me those vibes of that one specific plot point in that show. Yeah, Orson is really unique in the sense that, like, not only that, the whole cryptic. Also, what is it with the characters in Fire Emblem who are named Monica? What is it with them? and them being dead and used by villains and really creepy and uncanny and really scary implications. Like, what is
Mm-hmm.
it with that? Like, Monica and Sacred Stones and Monica and Tree Houses, and I'm just, this isn't a coincidence. They purposefully did this. But yeah, Orson is just one of the more unique ones, and I love the fact how he like starts off as an ally, but then he becomes more corrupted and goes to the villains because he's so lost in his grief. And I just
Yeah.
we have talked about this a lot, and it's something that actually pops up time and time again with Fire Emblem villains. But I feel Orson is a really unique take on the character because of the fact that he's an ally you use. And I honestly wish we had more characters like him. More characters that started as your ally, but then they betrayed you. Because I think that's a really cool concept. And but at the same time, I feel that while Orson is really cool, he isn't used as much as he could. I get why, because he is a part of the plot. He isn't a major player at the end. But at the same time, I wish that his character concept was used for a major player. That he was more. That we had a character like him, but who had more screen time and importance, and perhaps was playable for longer than just one chapter, so that the
Mm-hmm.
betrayer could actually hurt even more.
Yeah,
But yeah,
sort of grow a connection and
yeah,
have it hurt more when he betrays us, because it is a shock. It is a shock that, you know, we just got this new character, we just got this we've cleared this map, and then, oh, you're betraying us. It is a shock to the player, but the impact would have been much bigger if we had spent more time with him.
yeah. And if he had like more interactions and stuff, and after that, he kind of just vanishes and then comes back. Again, Orson is really cool, and I love him as a concept. But I really wish that he had become an archetype, or at least he had more characters like him,
Mm-hmm.
because this idea is really cool, but it isn't used as much. So or it isn't used as well as it could. Is used well, but it could even used even better. So I would have loved to see it evolve.
Yeah, I think it kind of it's interesting because if you think about it, it kind of connects very similarly to if he couldn't move on, he couldn't grieve properly, and because he never moved on, he's clinging to the past, trying to live with what he had before, trying to hold on to his memories and gain that back because he simply can't move on. And I think that's a really big part of Sacred Stones. Is sort of like
That's the central
the
theme.
process of grief and
Yeah,
moving on and
that's
accepting
the
what's
central theme
happened.
of yeah,
Yeah,
that's the central theme. And
yeah.
that's like one thing that like unites most of the playable characters is like they have lost something or someone or are lost themselves for one reason or another, and that like unites the whole cast and even the villains to some extent. When you think about characters like Walter, whose whole backstory is the fact that he lost himself. So I feel
Hmm.
that Orson's character really works well to like establish the team, even if he doesn't really show up that much. Now
Yeah,
we get to one of our big favorites. Now we get to your favorite and one of my favorites.
yeah. This is definitely the biggest for me. It's the biggest step forward in terms of just everything, in terms of writing, in terms of
Yeah,
characterization, in
I
terms of
agree.
plot. It's just,
Yeah.
oh god, I could go on forever.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about Lion. I feel
Hmm.
that if I start, like, I remember really early here in the beginning, we talk about how some villains are like so good, so memorable, they basically become synonymous with the game. They
Hmm.
basically become the thing you think about when you think about the game. And I feel Lion is the best example of this. Like, Sacred Stones, like, when you think about it, most people think about Lion. And Sacred Stones won't be even half as good as it is if Lion didn't exist. He's the driving force of the narrative, the linchpin that keeps it together, the character that exemplifies the themes of loss, grief, and trying to become stronger and united, and every other major theme Sacred Stones have. He is such a good character in so many ways. Where do we even start?
Yeah, it's. I think okay. I think one of the big things that makes him so memorable is we mentioned earlier, a lot of times the villains don't really have that connection to the protagonist. It's either just you invaded my country, or you attacked, or you killed someone I cared about. Like, it's surface level
Yeah.
things. But this is
Or even
the
some,
biggest connection that we have.
yeah, exactly. It's the most personal. Like,
Yeah.
usually the villains either have that hollow connection, or then the villains have a connection to another character. Like, say, with Nurgler, he doesn't really have that much connection to Eliwood, but he has connection to Ninian and Niels, for example, or
Mm-hmm.
how some other characters have connections to, but they really have connection to the main character, besides of the either the shallowish you invaded my country or killed a loved one, or then even a thematic connection, like how Zephiel is a foil to Roy.
Yeah.
But Lion has by far the best connection of all Fire Emblem villains to the main protagonist. Or I would say there's one who like rivals Lion. But we still have like 1, 2, 3, 4 games before we get to that. I think you know what I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, Lion definitely has one of the best connections. Like, he just has this personal history, and I really like how the game is like built around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one thing that's it really helps his character out so much is the various flashbacks that we get. Flashbacks to him growing up with Erica and Ephraim, and being their
It
friend.
also
Like,
like
we
helps
find out
us.
the first time they met, when they started training together, like all of these things, all of these different points in their
Yeah,
history together, and it's like we
it like
experience
not
that.
only. Mm, it gives like both insight, both like Erica and Ephraim as characters, Lion as a character, and their relationship and how it changed and growed. And that's also one thing. Like, usually we see the Fire Emblem was usually in the present day. Lion is one of the few that like we see flashbacks of, and we get the story in a way that feels natural and not just a large info dump or just subtext. We actually see Lion's whole character,
Hmm.
and it's an important part of the story. And that's something that I really like about Lion. He's a really tragic character. Like, he really wanted just good for people. He wanted to be a good person, but he felt he wasn't strong enough. And because of that, he became corrupted, and he like became desperate. And that like led him to ask for Modis, because he saw it was the only way for him to like become even better than and become what he wanted to be.
Yeah.
And that makes it me really sad.
Yeah, the other thing I love about him is just how human he feels, because, well, not only is he human, but the fact that the entire reason that he turned to, like, to the Darkstone and to, like, all of these other powers is because he was thrust into this role of responsibility that he just was not prepared for. He had to take over and protect and do all of these things that he had no idea how to manage. And he was trying to do the best that he could, and he just needed any possible solution to try and work things out.
Like, he was a rest resort. Like,
Yeah.
something I really like continuing with the human, because like, Lion kind of like at first gave me this, oh, he's this Ubu sweet boy, and I really like that. That's real sweet, but at the same time, it's pretty simplistic. But then, the more you find out about his backstory, and especially when playing Blood Fruits, you find out that he's more complex. He's a flawed human being. Sure, he wanted to be a good person, but he still had flaws, and that's what makes him human. He is just
he
so
has he has
complex.
so many he has so many insecurities about how he compares to Ephraim, how he compares to his father. He just, like, he has all of these concerns and worries, and he sees himself as just so low. His self-esteem is
Yeah.
terrible.
Oh my god, I just want to give him a hug, because like the guy is better than he thinks he is, and I
Yeah.
think that that's the tragic part of him. Like, he never realized how good he was and how much other people liked him. He
Yeah.
saw himself as the worst person, and that like what led him to his downward
Yeah.
spiral.
Yeah.
And that's what I really like about Liam. Like, he's a really tragic character and a really
Mhm.
complex.
Yeah, and then
And
going
also,
back to the theme of, like, of grief and grieving, he wasn't able to grieve with the death of his father because he had to be responsible. He had to take over. He couldn't accept the fact that his father was dead because now I have to take care of my country. Now I have to take care of my people. I have to protect them from all of these things, and it's just
Also taking care of himself as well. So
yeah.
like having to like not only the responsibility over yourself, but responsibility of a group of people.
Hmm.
So like it's kind of like he was lost, but also he couldn't like be lost because he had other people to take care of, and
Hmm.
that just like drive him to this point. And also, I like that even if he has a lot of insecurities, he's also like has flaws. Like he like has this in the final battle when he in Erika when like he regains his sense of self. He like kind of like implies says kind of like a nasty thing. I don't recall what it was, but like something, and then was like, oh god, he's still a human being. Like he still
Yeah.
has flaws, and that's like something I really like. And just, oh god, we could just talk about Lion for like 50 hours. So maybe we should move on. But before that, I
Hmm.
will move away from like Lion in universe as a character and the way he relates to things, and talk more about Lion in a meta sense and how he relates to the franchise. Because I feel that while Lion is really cool and I love him as a character, one of the things that I love Lion is the way he compares to other villains. Simply, what I think that even if Lion has a lot of the things that we have talked about over and over again, like I've noticed that Fire Emblem villains have this trend of like losing themselves and like having this sense of like madness taking over because of tragedy and like
Hmm.
losing their minds. I feel that the Lion is still one of the most unique villains in the entire franchise because, like, when I played the game, there was one question I was wondering: is Lion more a Rudolph, aka an evil emperor who is evil in an understandable sense, or is he a Garner, a wizard who was corrupted uh, by both literally and figuratively by hatred and jealousy and other negative emotions? And I think that Lion is both a Rudolph and a Garnet, but he also is a neither. Like he has traits of Rudolph in the sense that he's a ruler of the country. He has a reason for doing it and is an understandable and sympathetic character. At the same time, he has the traits of a Garnet. He's a dark wizard who tries to resurrect a dragon, or well, a demon god in this case.
Hmm.
He and his motivations are largely stemmed from hatred, jealousy, and or in this case, Lion's inferiority complex, or these negative emotions, which in this case are inferiority and and jealousy and feeling that he isn't good enough. Like he doesn't really like fit either archetype well because, like I said, Lion is the mage, and he's the one that, along with Ryu, sets the story in motion. So that's more Garnet than Rudolph. But at the same time, unlike most Garnets to that point, Lion is explicitly sympathetic. Like it isn't like I have to like read between lines or find like with Manfred and Garnet or find the hidden backstory like with Negra. Lion's story is present and clear in the main game.
Yeah.
And even if you like get more insight, if you like read the Super Sweet Canal, Lion's story is still present in a game. And like that's the reason why I can't really like classify him into either as a Rudolph or as a Garnet because he has similarities with both. You can't just both, but he also has differences with the other examples of the archetype both before and since that he doesn't really fit into this mold. And sure, you could argue that Lion is like an second version of Julius, but even then, I feel that the characters are still different enough. Like Lion, like he's a more active character, and not just another child Satan than an evil cult trying to breed, like with Julius. Like I could argue that Edelgard is more a second coming of Julius than Lion is, but that's just another topic. And that's just what I really like about Lion. Like he is a really unique character. And another thing that really adds to this is that how there are technically two characters that fit the riddle and Gone Vortex, those being the Brigod and Ryu. But Brigod is dead and technically a plot device more so than an actual character. And Ryu, as we discussed, he's more loyal and more secondary threat, so he doesn't really fit that well as a goner and more similar to the life of Izuka and Iago from later games.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because he sort of he sort of checks the boxes for a bunch of different archetypes, while at the same time being solely his own character. He has traits and attributes that you could attribute here or there, or he fits this role in the story and that role in the story. It's so unique, and I think part of that is just because he's both emperor and sorcerer. Like, he fits both roles in one. He's trying to rule his kingdom, trying to lead, trying to do all that, while at the same time trying to gain power, manipulate, and use those he can to, resurrect and do everything he wants to. So he's playing both roles at the same time.
He doesn't really fit both roles at the same time.
Yeah,
he does
yeah.
and he doesn't.
Yeah,
and that's what like makes him really unique. And like a lot of the time, Fire Emblem villains, like, we have these boxes or archetypes they fit to. But I wish we had more characters like Lion that really don't fit into clear archetypes and are more like different.
And there's no
Like,
clear,
they're
there's no
like
clear
open.
answer of what archetype he is, because he's so unique in the execution of his character.
Yeah, like, he's his own character. Like, Lion is Lion, and he can be compared to other characters and other archetypes, but it isn't an exact match. Like, say how some other characters are really more developed versions of others, or like belong to this archetype. Lion isn't really that. He's his own character, and I really like that. But yeah. I think Telios is next, and I kind of want to rush a few of the games. As much as I like Telios, but like Telios has like 10 billion villains, so like I kind of want to only talk about the big ones.
Yeah, Telios has a lot of villains, but I think we can sort of like narrow it down to 5 or so ish.
Yeah, like we can talk about the 4 riders in one, like 4 big riders, then Archnard, and then Severan, and Ashira. Like, if you want to talk about the minions and other guys, the politicians, we can like snippet them too somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, there was one king guy in Radiant Dawn, but like he wasn't that memorable, or he just altered his purpose, so there isn't that much. And also, like, I would say that we could like just skim through Awakening and Face, because I want to talk about 3 houses villains, and we don't have much time.
We can definitely rush through Awakening and Fates, but
because their villains aren't really that good, and a lot of them we have said a lot of what we have to say about them. Yeah, so I really like Dane's 4 Riders. Like I said, Pelis is one of my favorite cast of villains, and Dane's 4 Riders are one reason why. Like, I like them so much. Petrine is really cool and badass lady, who's really pretty, and she's kind of like a female Walter in the way that she's really sinister and brutal, but also really fun to watch. Like, she doesn't chew the skin the same way Walter does, but she is really fun to watch and really sinister lady who fulfills her purpose really well. And I love her. And again, she's a pretty lady, so of course I love her. And then Bryce, he's kind of like Murdoch in the sense that he's super loyal, and he's really to Archnard, and that's really cool about him. And he's a really cool character who fulfills his purpose well. I kind of like confuse him sometimes with Jill's dad, but like, it's also pretty cool, but also too minor to talk about here. But yeah, I think that Bryce is pretty cool, and he fulfills his purpose well, and I like his personality. Bertram is interesting. He has an interesting backstory. I like the fact how he's connected to Alencia by being her uncle, and I like the fact that he, in the Radiant Dawn, he's like saved from his hypnosis or the brainwash state. That's really cool. But yeah, all the 3 are really cool, and I really like them. But I don't think that any of them can be compared to the big guy, the man, the Mythium Legend himself, Black Knight.
Yeah.
Who's one of the best villains in the entire franchise. Like, he, Zephiel, and Lion are like the big 3 best villains in the entire series, in my opinion.
I can agree with that. That sounds like a pretty good top 3.
Yeah. And then Walter and Trevant are kind of like special mentions for me. Or like, Trevant is like one of that is more like my heart loves them, or they're like one of the best. But like, Walter is like the honorable mention, but he's real cool. But not in the same league as the big 3. But yeah, Black Knight. He is like this is the way you write a villain. Like with Walter, like I said, he has this presence. He has a purpose in the narrative. I love how Black Knight is connected to Ike and the Grail. I love the way how personal it feels. Like, yeah, sure. A big reason why Black Knight is personal is he killed Grail, but he has more connection to Grail and makes it even more personal. And I love the way that Black Knight like challenges Ike. Like, I love the way he's just so good. Like, man, he's such a well executed villain. And he has also a really good sinister aura about him. But also he loves to like challenge opponents to fights in a honorable way. Like actually I could compare Black Knight to like this very specific Common Rider villain archetype that in Common Rider there are these villains who like love to battle. At the same time, they have this honorable fighting spirit, and they're these honorable warriors. And Black Knight, she just really reminds me of that archetype, even if it's a different franchise. And that's probably a reason why I like him, because I really like the archetype in Common Rider.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, Black Knight is just really cool, and I love the way he's implemented, and he just shows up so well, and just he's a good character, man.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things about Black Knight is the build up to fighting against him, because like he shows up and like the first thing he does is pretty much basically just murder your father, who is claimed to be the greatest warrior in the land. Like there are legends about how good of a fighter he is, and then he just dies. And so the build up, the anticipation to I'm going to fight you, I'm going to avenge my father, I'm going to reach your level. And then when you actually do it, once you defeat him, it feels so rewarding, because the build-up has been leading to that moment. It's a very personal journey for Ike.
Exactly, like this is this personal connection, and it's just so cool. And I love the way like how he shows up every now and then, like that infamous house in that one level where he shows up if he the house, and that just the way he shows up and just it has this personal connection to Ike in a way that feels even more personal to any other villains that kill a character's father. And unlike some other ones, he isn't killed in the chapter right after he kills Grail. You know exactly what I'm talking about with that. We'll look at her later. Yeah, I feel that along with Walter, Black Knight has the best build-up. And Radiant Dawn, the fact that he is revealed to be one of the big knights, Zelgius, is really nice, and I like his backstory and the loyalty to Severin. But I feel that Black Knight is one of those characters that works better when he is more mysterious.
Yeah.
And his identity being revealed is cool and does add to his character at the same time. I feel that he's more interesting when he's just a Black Knight and when we don't know who he is. And also, I'd argue that Black Knight, you don't necessarily need to know his backstory or his true identity to enjoy his character, because he doesn't really need that.
I definitely like him a lot more in Path of Radiance than in Radiant Dawn, because once we get the reveal of who he is and once we learn his backstory, it's a good backstory. It's well written, it's well executed, and the reveal is nice. Like it fits well in the story, it flows naturally. But you lose that sense of mystery to him. You lose that sense of danger and just the presence that he has. Like it sort of diminishes him slightly, because he's no longer the Black Knight. He's just now, this general.
Yeah, like it works well, but I feel that it doesn't work well for a character like Black Knight. Like a big reason why Black Knight works so well is his mystery, and he has this sinister aura. So he kind of loses that impact. Like a certain, and that's a really shame. Like I don't like when the mystery characters of course I like the mystery and I like when the mystery is solved. But like here, I just wonder if it was necessary. Like maybe we should have had the general be a completely different character than just a Black Knight. But then again, Black Knight was left alive at the end of Path of Radiance, so like having him get closer in Radiant Dawn made sense. Like for Black Knight, the only backstory he really needed was the connection to Grail and him being Grail's former student. Like that was the only thing that we really needed.
Yeah, snippets of a backstory would have worked better than an entire identity reveal. and an entire
Yeah.
like, this is what he's been planning the whole time. Because
Yeah,
it
because like
really
with
does
some
just.
mysterious, like with some mysterious characters having their reveal their identity works well. Like with the Flame Emperor, like
Hmm.
Flame Emperor is a character that you kind of need their identity be revealed and need their motives to be revealed. But Black Knight doesn't really need their motives to be revealed or need their identity to be revealed. And like, if you need Black Knight's identity be revealed, have it be like with the Death Knight. Have it be optional. Have it be something that's only alluded to in game, rather
Yeah,
than having, by the way, this guy is this guy.
yeah,
Like, have it more subtler and more implications
yeah. And
and in between lines and supports,
Radiant
rather than
Dawn,
have it
Radiant Dawn
be.
already does that a lot. It has optional things like the reveal of Soren's true identity. That's completely optional. It already has a lot of content that is only accessible if you do this specific thing, like, oh, go talk to this person on this map or clear this map in this amount of time.
Yeah, so like
It's
you don't
filled
really.
with optional content, so I don't know why they didn't make the Black Knight's full story optional.
Yeah, because it could have worked better. But yeah,
Hmm.
Black Knight is really cool in Path of Radiance and one of the best villains. And in Radiant Dawn, he's still cool, but not as good.
Yeah, he's
Still,
still a good
that's
character.
kind of
He's
the
still
point.
very well written, very well executed. But the fact that he no longer has that commanding presence, it really does like. It's a little sad to see.
But yeah, now when we have talked about the generals, let's talk about the villain himself, Ashnard. And I think he was the guy who you referred to when I talk about the Wyvern, my Wyvern friend.
Yeah, okay,
I
because
think I
do you-
actually, yeah, you can start.
okay, this one is very very controversial, but I actually really don't like him.
Why is that? Why don't you like him?
So I don't. The reason I don't like him is because I don't think he fits in the Tellius world, because Tellius is presented very much as a very complex world. And I'm not saying he's a simple character. He has his complexities, but a lot of his character boils down to his ideologies of, strength. People must survive. I have to make people stronger so that they can grow as people. And that's
So
it's an
basically,
interesting ideology, but it's the way it's presented is so. I
it
feel it's a
clashes
little
with,
poorly done.
or clashes with the game like we talked with Kalia, that it's kind of feels that it could have worked better in another setting or.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't feel like he fits in with the rest of the characters, because everyone has so much depth and complexity and nuance, and then he's just maniacal villain.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, but I also disagree because I like Ashnard. I think that he's
Hmm.
a really fun villain and this really sinister presence. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I do kind of agree with you on him being out of place, kind of. I think he's still a really cool character, and I still have a lot of fun with him. Like he's still one that I think is really solid and kind of personal favorite. Also, he's a character I really like, but I definitely see the issues with him
Yeah.
that you have with him. Like maybe he could have worked better either in a different game as a maybe with a different because I think that could be complex, but maybe complement the world he is, the ideology he has better, or
Hmm.
alternatively have him still have the ideology and characterization he has, and have him still be intelligent, have it be executed in a way that fits better to the world. Like maybe that could help a lot.
Yeah.
Because like the issue you have with Arsenal is less with his character and more with the way it clashes with the world in a way that doesn't really fit the game.
Yeah, it's a lot about the presentation, because a lot of the
Yeah,
times when we see him, he's just like he's laughing maniacally, or he's
yeah,
torturing people, or he's like
yeah,
talking about power, and it
yeah.
clashes so much with the
Mm,
rest of the world
I
that's
get that.
so deep and complex.
I get that. Like on the other hand, I think that Fire Emblem needs more villains that are just extremely fun and love to hate, like we
Hmm.
talked with Norton and Walter. But at
Yeah.
the same time, one of the big appeals of Helios is how it's a really complex and real world. Like it's kind of the issue I have with Forgottens to an extent, is the fact that how Archonauts kind of clashes with the world and how the simply cartoonish evilness clashes with the overall world. But I still think that Archonauts is still pretty cool. I wish he was just executed better.
Yeah. Yeah,
but like he's a really cool.
I like aspects of him. He's a fun villain. He's memorable. I just really wish there was more to him, or that it was
Yeah,
executed in a slightly different way.
yeah, exactly. Like his ideology is interesting and it works well, but it could
Mm-hmm.
work in a different game that could be more simple or complex in a way that Peleus isn't, or have a different tone. Or his ideology could be like executed differently. But before we go to the Binion Senate and Zephyrin, I want to say a funny thing about Ashna that I realized. Like, this doesn't make sense to anyone who hasn't watched Kamen Rider, but I just realized Ashnar's whole ideology and whole strong are better than weak, and his whole end goal. He's basically quite a Kumon.
I hate that
He's
you
quite
just put that thought in my head.
he's quite to be a survivor.
Oh god.
His whole
Oh god,
is
no.
just It just got to come on with a violin, but that's okay. But yeah, with that first thought, I think it's time to talk about Vengeance and it as well as Sephiroth. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that Vengeance and it is it's kind of like with the Black Fang when we talk about that. It's kind of the evil cult, but also not really because like it's more or less this like political
Mm-hmm.
group of like senate or like political party, like political system of Benjian, rather than some kind of culture or something like that. It functions the way how evil cults in Fire Emblem usually work, like having this organization or group of people who like manipulate behind the scenes and kind of like orchestrate the events. And I feel that Benjian Senate is probably one of the better ones, simply because it's more realistic. Because as we all know, politicians are corrupt and dig for power. But yeah, I feel that the way that how like it fits the like it works in a more realistic way than usually evil cults in Fire Emblem work. And
Mm-hmm.
in Telios, you really can't have an evil cult for the reasons we talk about Archonauts, because I feel that having a standard evil cult or having something like Locturians or Acotans would really clash with the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Like I feel it would really clash with the tone and the setting they are trying to set. So instead, having the role of an evil cult go to this powerful senate or this powerful political group is more like a better way to execute it. And
Mm-hmm.
sure, a lot of the Benjian Senate people are like really one-dimensional and are just greedy politicians. But also, not only that is true, but like they don't really need to be any more complex than that. And besides, you have Oliver, the most magnificent and best character in Fire Emblem history. Like, I have this really strange love-hate relationship with Oliver. On one hand, he's so extra and so fun. I just love him, and I love his warped sense of beauty and how he sees himself as the
Yeah.
most beautiful creature in the world. And I think he's extremely fun, and I love him so much. But at the same time, he's kind of like the implications with him basically being a slave owner or someone who could do nasty things to people without their consent. That kind of makes me go, ah! But Oliver is still, besides those implications, I love Oliver. He's fun. And I love the fact that you can recruit him in Radiant Dawn. And like, it's just, why are you here? I hate you, go away. And Oliver's just, I'm going to fight for the good because I'm fighting for the beautiful and you are so beautiful. I will fight for you. He's, Oliver's just so much fun. I love
Yeah.
him.
I think one
Yeah,
of the
before
things that I like about one of the things that I like about Radiant Dawn that it works well with the villains is rather than being about a war or being about countries fighting, it's actually more about individual political instability. Because you start with Dane that has to reconstruct after Ashnard has been defeated, so they have to basically rebuild their entire nation. Then you have Crimea, where they don't want to Lyncia. Like they're like, oh, you're not you're not good to rule, you're not fit. And then you have Benyon, which is dealing with Sonaki, trying to keep everything stable. And then you have the Senate grabbing power. It's like each individual nation is facing its own individual political instability, and that's causing chaos throughout the entire continent because everywhere is dealing with its own issues, and then those issues overlap.
really cool, and that's one of the things that really adds to the realism of it. And I really like that.
Yeah.
I like the complexity. But yeah, before we move on to Sephiroth, I want to say 2 words of Isabel. He's
Mhm.
basically a worse Reeve. He's basically the same character as Reeve. This manipulative, cunning little bugger who like manipulates behind the scenes, but isn't major enough to be considered a grown-up. And while I work with Reeve, I feel that I have the problem with Izuka, kind of the same issue you have with Archnard. He isn't a bad villain per se, but he's too cartoonish and too simple to a complex world as the world of Peleus to work
Yeah,
to
yeah.
for me.
I'm not the biggest fan of him either. But he's just
Yeah, like
he's not there too often, so he doesn't really like. It's not too bothersome.
yeah, like Izuka isn't a bad villain by any means, and he serves his purpose well. But at the same time, he's a bit too cartoony for Peleus, in my opinion.
Hmm.
I do love the whole his gimmick of like summoning puppets, and that's and mechanic robots or also whatever, and that's really cool. And I think he fulfills his purpose well. But other than that, he's kind of those characters that like should have been tweaked or in a different game.
Yeah.
And again, he's a slightly worse Reeve, basically.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, Sephiroth, he's really cool.
Hmm.
I don't have much else to say about him other than he's really cool and I like him and he's really pretty and his motivations are interesting and his backstory is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. He's really fleshed out in terms of his backstory and motivation, and it's really interesting to see like how he got to the place where he is, because it really is like just a large series of events that leads us not only in his life but also throughout the continent. Like how did the
Like it kind of
countries
like
get to where
mirrors.
they are now?
Yeah, like it mirrors his events, mirrors the whole thing that how the confidence like kind of
Yeah.
snowballs into this chaos. So it kind of like reflects that. But yeah, Sephiroth, I don't really have much else to say about him. Do you?
Hmm. Um,
But yeah,
I'm just gonna say that
Ashira.
I'm gonna say he's an interesting villain in terms of like execution, because he's another one of those that's kind of unique. Like he doesn't really fit into a standard archetype.
He definitely is. Like he's the other one of the few villains that I think post Lion who doesn't really fit into the archetypes.
Hmm.
Like he's kind of the god of the game, but at the same time he isn't really. And he doesn't really fit into any other archetype in my opinion.
Yeah.
Also, something funny. Lion and Sephiroth, if they're counted as Garnifs, they are like the only pretty boys, and they are also the most complex and like most fleshed out character Garnifs, and that's kind of like neat also, but it also frustrates me to no end. Just
Yeah.
please make more interesting characters who aren't conventionally attractive. Please. And
Hmm.
thank you. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say about Sephiroth, so shall we move on to Ashira? Or do you
Yeah.
have?
Yeah. Let's move on.
Yeah. With Ashira, so like, I do have one thing to say, and it's basically the thing I said with the start. I think it's really funny with Ashira that like, she's this goddess. Like, we started from like this basic evil Manakiti man with Medius, and then we kind of escalated to the point that the final boss is the creator of the whole universe.
Yeah.
And I really like that. And I really like her backstory and think she's really interesting and unique. And I really like how she starts as good, but then becomes evil and like she becomes good again. And she's really interesting.
Hmm. I really do appreciate just the scale of everything, because it's not just another, it's a dragon, but we worship you like a god. It is genuine power of creation and destruction, controlling life, deities.
Yeah. She is a literal deity. And
Yeah.
it isn't like with a Naga or with Sodis where like you could either interpret as God or as a being that's powerful as God and worshipped as a God, but not a God. It is God.
Hmm.
But yeah. And now we're just going to snippet. Telios is done. I like Telios. I think we are done.
Yeah,
Telios is a
Telius
really good
has
villain.
it has solid villains overall. Probably
Yeah.
in my second or third favorite group of
Same.
villains.
Same here. It has one of my favorite. Like I can like flip flop whether I like its or second stones villains more, but yeah.